gonna head through this section of the village because this is where the Edison section starts, and I can see the statue of him over there. Edison at work. The hero of Henry Ford says genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. Henry Ford greatly admired Thomas. He asked American sculptor James Earl Fraser to create this statue because Thomas Edison inspired Ford with his own inventions. Edison at work. I never did anything by accident, nor did any of my inventions come by accident. They came by work. Let's see what these buildings are. They have, like I said, a little village dedicated to Edison. Oh, it's his Menlo Park complex. This is interesting. I'm excited to see this because I've been to Menlo Park. I think you can go in some of that. We'll see. It says Menlo Park Laboratory is the birthplace of Thomas Edison's electric lighting system, the first photograph and many other inventions. Thomas believed the best creations came from people working together. His team of workers brought both traditional craft skills and new scientific knowledge to the exciting challenges facing them at the laboratory. In 1876, Edison set a goal to have one major invention every 6 months and one minor invention every 10 days. He came close to achieving this goal. I may have to do a video on one of those rides. So the first door open that we can see in is, wow. That thing says 1878 Laboratory of Thomas A. Edison, well, T.A. Edison. Whoa. Edison's machinists took the ideas of Edison and his workers and made them into working models. All right, so we can go in the whole facility, the laboratory. If you go to Fort Meyers, this whole laboratory there's on display as well. Wow. Think of all the people he would have had working in here, developing ideas. A lot of people call him a thief, but guy was doing pretty much the same thing everybody else does. He hires people to create inventions and then puts his own name on them. Pretty much what Disney does now. Wow. We're actually in the real place where the photograph was invented. Without this laboratory, there would be no vlogs. Edison's glass house, originally built as a photographic studio and drafting room, the glass blowing shop was fundamental to Edison's enterprise. Edison's incandescent light experiments endured that the laboratory had a voracious appetite for glass, not only for bulbs, but also for associated apparatus such as vacuum pumps. Thomas Edison and his workers used traditional crafts such as glass blowing for their work. Let's see. Yep, there's some of the glass they're working with. And all those tubes over there, like incandescent light bulbs. Making copies, this says. Edison and his workers need to share ideas about their work. Three-dimensional invention is often better communicated in a drawing instead of words. Edison had a cyanotype machine, a type of early blueprinting device to make copies of drawings. The original drawing was made on thin paper and then placed in a wooden frame over a piece of chemically treated paper. Sunlight darkened the treated paper, leaving white lines that duplicated the original drawing. Many precise copies of the same image could be made this way. Yep, and there's the blueprint copies over there. Fascinating place this is. Now let's see what this giant one is over here. And what's going on back there. Of about 5 different buildings in this complex. Look at how the electricity is done up there. Looks like there's someone in there to give us a little bit of a tour.
Well, that's just so you can go in and fix the pipes and the wires. It's like also to keep our spider collection down.
What's that?
This is a photograph.
Looks like he's working on clock pieces in here.
If you get a group together.
There's an Edison phonograph machine. Nice.
This is we call it the tinfoil phonograph. It was the first machine in the world to be able to record your voice and play it back. It was a talking machine. And this is a replica of the original prototype. Over here, this is the real deal. This is the first commercial phonograph model. It's nearly 150 years old.
Wow.
It records on a sheet of tinfoil.
Oh, does it? I've seen the cylinder machines, but I've never seen the tinfoil. Wow.
This was the initial concept. It uses a needle to make impressions into the tinfoil.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
These are the megaphones they use to amplify your voice. And, over here we have electrical capacitors.
Oh, yeah.
Those were used to hold electric charges. Those were used in the telegraph industry.
Oh.
They would help filter out some of the electrical charges built up in the lines.
Man, he had his hand in everything. Thank God, honestly. Oh, there we go. Galvanometer.
How are you folks today?
Use an electric current used to run a motor or a light.
About 20 miles from New York City.
It was so sensitive to vibration that it had to be anchored to brick pillars embedded to the ground. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed it is.
Original laboratory in about 40 years.
I feel like we're in the inner workings of his mind. Because in here is the photo room, and look at the lights. These are great. The photometer room was used to measure and compare the amount of light produced by light bulbs. Edison's team tried thousands of filament materials in hundreds of shapes with dozens of clamps connecting sockets. They continued testing various combinations even after Edison's successful demonstration of an incandescent bulb in 1879. I'm not sure what's going on in here, what he was working on in here. Lots of rocks. Probably worked on the light bulbs in there. This one says this is the telephone room over here. In 1880, Edison was selling telephones that incorporated his several patent improvements. In this room, the telephones were assembled and packed for shipping. And now we have smartphones that do everything. Thanks, Thomas Edison. We've seen the ground floor of the main laboratory here. Now let's go upstairs to the second floor. There's a lot of stuff going on in here. Here's his chemistry nook. He had a chemistry specialist on hand. And this was the chemistry shop. Up the stairs we go. Wow. There's a lot going on up here. A lot of electrical work. Wow.
What do you think?
I think there was a lot going on up here.
There was.
What was he doing over here?
This is where it was all happening. This is the place where they did the research to make the first light bulb, the first functional light bulb.
Oh, wow.
You know, those are some of his, that's one of his inventions right there, and two of them are over there, you know, in glass cases. But I'll show you a picture. You can see, it's a picture shot in 1880 looking that way. Looking back at the experiment tables and stuff. And his workers are here. You can see, it pretty much looks the same.
Oh, yeah.
See?
Yeah, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, they recreated it so it was like it looks like it was.
Even with an organ down there.
Yeah.
Pipe organ.
Pipe organ, yeah.
All right, we have one last building here in the complex. I would think it would be his house or wherever he was sleeping. Maybe not. Maybe it's an office. Because that was all creative space. Yeah, looks like it says office and laboratory. I love they have so much information when you first get to the doorway. It kind of lets you know what you're going to see. Let's see. His office staff on the first floor took care of business and accounting. They worked alongside employees who dealt with the reporters who visited. Okay. Well, there's the stairs. We're not going to be able to go up there because it's all behind glass, but... And it says, into this office came scientific journals, newspapers, and reporters seeking an interview with Edison. The Wizard of Menlo Park, he was called. This is his desk. Here's the front of the office. So it looks like since we were in the complex, we entered from the back door. This would have been the way you entered if you were a reporter wanting to interview him. Now let's see some of the other houses and buildings that they have here. Look at this car racing towards us. So this is a boarding house. An interesting story. More than a dozen unmarried male workers from Thomas Edison's Menlo Park Laboratory lived in this boarding house. And it was run by widow Sarah Jordan. She was a distant relative of Edison's wife Mary. The men would stay here, and it says that this was one of the first homes ever to be wired for electrical light. That makes sense. Said there were 3 women who lived here that would help take care of the boarders, that would offer them lunch and talk to them and ask them what was going on at Menlo Park. So it's saying this is part of his Fort Myers laboratory, Thomas Edison's Fort Myers laboratory, built near his home in Florida. Combination laboratory workshop. Edison the chance to engage in more of his investigation year-round. This was a second laboratory. So probably what I toured has been a recreation since. I know the home's original, but he obviously moved some of the laboratory here.
And the inventor had plans sent to Fort Meyers from all over the country. Eventually, Edison said
I can't recommend that enough. If you ever get to Fort Myers, you definitely got to go to that.
14 feet tall, yielding 12% rubber. Rubber prices fell before Edison had found a way to mechanically extract the latex. In 1928,
They just moved one of the shops over here.
Meyers laboratory in Greenfield Village and built Edison.
He also has a pretty extensive garden at the one in Fort Myers because he was experimenting with that as well. Different uses with flowers and things like that. All right, we found it. The Edison Homestead. I knew we were bound to at some point. It says offers a look at homemaking in 1915, a time when long-held tradition methods were easing into modern homes. During the first decades of the 1900s, a host of modern conveniences were introduced for home use, along with an increasing array of household guides, published cookbooks, and brand name products. As a boy, Thomas Edison visited his grandparents' farm, where he fondly remembered playing in the barn, swimming, and fishing in a nearby river. So let's see if we can get inside. A little bit of the farm life out here. Nope, this one is not open. And a nice little garden next door. Too bad that one's not open today. Wow. This is the Sir John Bennett Jewelry Shop. Wow, look at that. How freaking cool is this place? And then right beside it, they've got an old carousel. Hopefully it's running today. We'll see. See what the significance of this particular one is. Built in 1913. All right. Well, my friends, I hope you enjoyed our days in Greenfield Village. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.